Hello everybody, it's Tim here again to another movie review, this time the Halloween review for this October. I decided to review this movie on Halloween because I thought, what the hell, you know what better time of year to review this flick than now, but I'm reviewing Pearl, the A24 film, the prequel to X. Now X, I've already done a review for, I gave it a 4 out of 4, really enjoyed it, I thought it was like great, I thought it was a great, like awesome slasher flick. Not perfect, but for what it was, I thought it was really awesome. I really enjoyed it. Yes, I'm adjusting my necklace. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Pearl, I will say this, it's an even better movie, but I will say that I slightly prefer X just because X was much more of a horror film. This flick, Pearl, is like a period piece that takes place like way back in either the 40s or the 50s, I'm not for sure. But it's done in like the style of movies from like back in that day, stuff like Wizard of Oz and other stuff, like even maybe like movies like Gone with the Wind, maybe, and even some other stuff. But yeah, overall, this is easily a 4 out of 4. I would say this is a masterpiece of a film, in my opinion. And I do think it is a better movie than X, but I do not think that if you're a horror fan that you will like this film better than X, even though I think it's a better movie. If you get what I'm saying, because X was much yeah, tongue tied, was much more of a horror flick. This is really like a dark drama character study, or a dark character study drama, really. You got the character Pearl, who is the old lady played by Mia Goth in the original, in the X movie. She also played like the Maxine character, I mean, who got away at the end. And they're doing a trilogy, so we're going to get the Maxine film after this that I guess is going to like take place in Hollywood or whatever. But you got the Pearl character who like obviously suffers from depression, and she kills other animals who like happen to wander into the barn that like don't belong to her or her family, and she feeds them to this big gator out in, or a crocodile, I'm not sure which, out in the water, out in the pond or whatever, or the lake. But she feeds them to it, so she's like killing small animals, which is obviously a sign of psychosis problems, or yeah, mental problems. And she has to help take care of her invalid father, and she's real young, and she wants to get off the farm because she's had to have been there like her whole life since she's pretty much been born, from the looks of it. And her mom is like really domineering and just tries to squash all of her dreams and tells her she can't do anything and all that, and basically like you got to make do with what you have. Now on one hand, her mom is kind of right because she admits she notices that Pearl has mental problems. um, but on the other hand, her mom treats her like such crap and is just completely unsupportive of anything she wants to do, knowing that her daughter, of course, wants to go make her own life. Um, that you understand why Pearl would resent her mother and why she would have mental problems. Now, to say this, they do make a case in the movie to where it's like it seems like Pearl is kind of born with some type of mental problem issue already, and like the depression and the stress from like living on the farm with her overbearing mother just like amplifies it. It seems like she has like schizophrenia, really, because she's fine one minute and she gets real depressed and she'll fly off and kill somebody the next minute. And she admits that she like hid that part of herself to her husband Howard, who was the old dude in the X movie. Here we see him younger, and he's kind of like a normal guy. And apparently he comes from a wealthy family, and she married him only specifically so she could get the money to get the hell off the farm. But she does admit that she did like end up falling in love with him, and she does cheat on him with this projectionist guy who's hitting on her or whatever. But he only wanted a piece of ass. So after that, she knows she made a mistake, and she ends up killing that dude later. But yeah, so it seems like she has schizophrenia, really, or like an extreme version of bipolar disorder and all that, which makes sense. And so to top it all off with all the stress of her mother and the family life and the conditions that she's living in with the farm and everything, being forced to stay there for since she's been born, it's drove her even crazier. And so eventually, of course, most of the first like half of the movie is like a character study of the Pearl character and how she's like going crazier and crazier and more unhinged. I will say this movie's a bit too long. X was a bit too long too. Not as bad as this one though. This one feels longer, or felt longer. Probably because it was more slower paced and more of a character study with less action. But yeah, and she's like going to this theater to watch these movies and all that. And she wants to be up on the picture show and all that because she wants to feel loved by people, to get back some of that, to take away some of that depression feeling that she has inside of her for how bad her life has been, to try to make it better. I get it. I get what the character's coming from, but of course she's psychotic and she murders people, which is the mistake. One thing I will say is you get to the point where eventually she does fly off against her mother, and they have a fight, and she accidentally pushes her backwards into the fireplace, and it catches her on fire, and that's what kills her. So her death was like pretty much an accident, even though her and Pearl were fighting, but it was pretty much an accident. I would have liked it better if Pearl actually did just fly off and kill her instead of having it be an accident. Having it be an accident does make it more tragic, but at the same time, though, I think it would have been better if Pearl just flew off and killed her. Like, she finally just completely lost it and just killed her. Or maybe after she, like, burned her by accident, maybe she just finished her off by beating her and all that. And of course, her mom is, like, telling her, go ahead and leave, Pearl, and when you fail, you will know what that feels like to have a horrible life and all that. Um, and so eventually, after she does go and audition for something, she does fail. Um, and she comes, or she doesn't get it, and comes back to her mom's corpse, and she's like holding on to it and hugging it. And of course, you get the idea that maybe she does miss her mother, and she's like, "Mom, you were right," and maybe that's what she's feeling. But even though her mom was completely wrong to say something like that, her mom is just totally unsupportive and seems to like overly hate Pearl. We never really get a reason why, a clear reason why. At least I didn't feel like it, that she resented her so much. Maybe because she just wants to leave, but I don't know. That's kind of seems obvious that she would want to leave this situation because she's young and she wants to have her own life. And of course, her mom is like no help at all. I mean, if she really I mean, because she turns down like any kind of help from other people and all that. Like the Howard guy who the Mia Goth's Pearl character is married to is rich. Like she wanted to, she could just get his family to hire like a live-in nurse, and Pearl wouldn't even have to stay there. Like she has other options that she could do to where Pearl could go off and live her own life, but she deliberately doesn't do that because she's just too prideful, which makes her character really flawed because it shows that she cares more about her pride than the well-being of her daughter and her daughter's happiness, which is automatically not good. Even though her daughter is crazy and going crazier. You get to see where Mia Goth dry humps a scarecrow or whatever. Um, imagining it's the projectionist dude. That was an interesting scene. Mia Goth definitely sold it. Yeah, and Mia Goth's performance at the end of this movie in the climax when she's like talking to the blonde haired chick who's supposed to be like Howard's sister, and she's like telling her all the big speech about how she's killed everybody and all that. She finally unwinds and lets it all out, and the chick's like starting to leave, and she flies off and kills her because she's like, just like my mama said, I gotta make the best of the situation that I have, or the situation I'm in. And so she's pretty much just accepted who she is now and the situation she has, and so she just wants to kill Howard's sister so she can just like hide the situation and all that. So the blonde haired chick won't, I guess, tell Howard that Mia Goth cheated on him with a projectionist and all that. But Howard, the movie ends with Howard like coming back from the army, and he walks in there, and all the corpses of the parents or whatever are like sitting at the dinner table with all this rotten food, and Mia Goth just looks at him and is like, "Welcome home, Howard." She just does this big over the top smile while the credits are just like going by. It's pretty creepy and unhinged, but you understand where it's coming from because this is a person who has like schizophrenia, or which is pretty much like an more extreme version of bipolar disorder. That is just like completely amplified by her horrible living situation, and now she just finally completely lost it. And so, yeah, overall, that's the end of the movie. For what I would say, 4 out of 4. Mia Goth completely sells the movie. She should at least get an Oscar nomination for this performance. She's great here, especially at the end with that speech. Overall, I didn't really think X needed to be a trilogy, but after seeing this, I'm more excited for Magazine now. I'm officially a fan of this trilogy, and I want to see where it goes. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.